Here's some practice, which I will walk you through. You should do this first on your own and then come back here to check your answers. So we're going to start here in the first row, lithium and phosphorus. Lithium is our metal, phosphorus is our nonmetal. What will the ionic charge be? I've shown that lithium is in column 1 and has 1 valence electron, so it loses that 1 electron and it will gain a charge of +1. Phosphorus is in column 5, so it has 5 electrons, valence electrons. To become satisfied, it needs to gain 3 to have 8. So we see that phosphorus now is an ion with a -3 charge because it has gained 3 negative electrons. What will the chemical formula be when these two elements bond? So I know the charge of lithium was 1, the charge of phosphorus was 3, and I crisscross them over, so it is lithium 3, phosphorus 1. The name of this compound is our metal name with the non-metal name with the ending of "ide", so it's lithium phosphide. And there, the optional drawing, I showed what we did when we developed the formula. We knew that there were 3 lithium for every 1 phosphorus. So I drew out my 3 lithium, each with 1 valence electron, and each lithium gave its 1 valence electron to phosphorus. So we can see now that phosphorus has gained 3 electrons. It has a charge of -3, and each lithium lost 1 electron to each have a charge of +1. Calcium and sulfur. Calcium is our metal, sulfur is our nonmetal. Calcium is in column 2 of the periodic table, so it will lose 2 to become stable to make an ion of calcium 2+. Sulfur is in column 6, so it needs to gain 2 electrons to become stable, and there I see sulfur, the ion, with a charge of -2. To determine the formula, I have the crisscross rules. So calcium had an ion of 2, sulfur had an ion of 2. I crisscross them to be Ca2S2, but I can reduce that to the common denominator, so it's CaS. The name of that is calcium sulfide. To show the diagram for that, I have calcium with its 2 valence electrons, sulfur with its 6 valence electrons. Calcium, the 1 calcium, can donate both of its valence electrons to sulfur, and that means now calcium has 2 more protons than electrons, so it has a charge of +2, and sulfur has 2 more negative electrons than positive protons, so it has a charge of 2 negative. Lithium and nitrogen. Lithium is our metal, nitrogen is our nonmetal. Lithium has 1 valence electron because it's in column 1. It will lose that 1 valence electron to have a charge of +1. Nitrogen is in column 5. It has 5 valence electrons. It will gain 3 to become stable, so nitrogen will have a charge of 3 negative. The formula was given to you. I know that the name is the metal and then the nonmetal with "ide" at the end, so it's lithium nitride. And here's my diagram. I have 1 lithium, which I knew from looking at the formula I would have, and I knew I would have 3 lithium. Each lithium can give 1 electron each to nitrogen. Nitrogen will accept 3. So that means I have nitrogen here that has gained 3 electrons to become stable with a charge of 3 negative, and each lithium lost 1 electron to have a charge of 1 positive. Potassium and chlorine. Potassium's our metal, chlorine is our nonmetal. Potassium's in column 1, and it will lose 1 valence electron to gain a charge of +1. Chlorine is in column 7. It needs 1 more valence electron to become stable, so it will gain 1 electron, and it will have a charge of -1 as an ion. I have determined the ionic charge, so potassium had a charge of 1, chlorine had a charge of 1. I crisscross them over, so the formula for this when potassium and chlorine bond is KCl. The name of this is potassium chloride, and here is the diagram showing that. I didn't show the arrow of transfer, but you can see now that potassium lost its 1 valence electron to become stable, and chlorine gained, so it now has 8. And it is now stable with a charge of -1. Magnesium and chlorine. Magnesium is a metal, chlorine is a nonmetal. I look on the periodic table and I see magnesium is in column 2, so it has 2 valence electrons. It will lose those 2 electrons to have a charge of +2. Chlorine is in column 7, so it has 7 valence electrons. It will gain 1 to have a charge of -1. I was given the formula of MgCl2, so I know the name is magnesium chloride. And my diagram here, I show the original 1 magnesium with 2 valence electrons, each chlorine with only 7. So magnesium will give 1 electron to chlorine and 1 electron to this chlorine. So I have now a compound with 1 magnesium ion of +2 and 2 chlorine ions of -1 each. Potassium and oxygen. Potassiums are metal, oxygens are nonmetal. Potassium's in column 1, it has 1 valence electron. It will lose that 1 electron to have a charge of 1+. Oxygen is in column 6, so it has 6 valence electrons. It needs to gain 2 to become stable. It gains those 2, and now it has a charge of 2-. I use the crisscross rule to determine the formula. So potassium had a charge of 1, oxygen had a charge of 2. I crisscross them over to have a formula of K2O. I know the name is potassium and it's oxide, so the beginning of anything with oxygen, an ionic compound of oxygen is oxide. And here's my diagram. One of my oxygen atoms, 2 potassium atoms, potassium each will donate 1 electron to oxygen to end up with an ionic compound of potassium, 2 of them, each with a charge of +1, and then oxygen having gained the 2 electrons to become a charge of -2. Sodium and iodine. Sodiums are metal, iodines are nonmetal. Sodium has 1 valence electron because it's in column 1. It will lose that electron to have a charge of +1. Iodine is in column 7, so it will gain 1 electron to become stable, and it will have a charge of 1 negative or -1. To determine the formula, I know each of them had a charge of 1. Sodium had a charge of 1, and iodine had a charge of 1. I crisscross them over to have NaI. The formula for that is sodium iodide, and my diagram is sodium with its 1 valence electron, iodine with its 7 valence electrons, the transfer of electrons from the metal to the nonmetal. So I have 1 sodium ion with a charge of +1 and 1 iodine ion with a charge of -1. So what you should do is you should make sure to check your answers